one of our legislators, all 6 of them in Congress, are against it. But that's not the rest of the people in Utah, where it's a controversial issue. They're both sides, but it's public land, and it shouldn't be 100% against and no representation in our congressional district.
The purpose of the PLI was to find a compromise?
Yeah, I looked at the PLI, not all thousands of pages, and it looks good at the beginning, but it doesn't protect against drilling or mining. It doesn't protect the native rights as much. And if you look carefully at the proposal for the Bears Ears, the grazing still continues. The Native Americans and locals have a say of the management.
But the people who live there will counter, and they have in previous interviews, they counter that they were promised that at Canyon de Chelly and down at Wupatki, and that didn't come to fruition.
Well, we've been promised things by the PLI and by the attempted compromises of all the different counties, and that came to nothing because the county commissioners didn't.
Okay, so
not everybody has acted in good faith.
Well, Congressman Bishop says that the people that walked away from the table on PLI negotiations was the coalition.
They tried for 2 years, and then finally the Native Americans formed their own coalition. And you know, if ever the Antiquities Act deserved being used for antiquities, this is it. This is the richest area of our early American history, and it needs maximum protection. And the PLI protects some land, but not as much. It doesn't protect it as much. It doesn't protect it against drilling. It doesn't give the Native Americans the say they should have. And I think it's their turn. We've done so many horrible things to the
but the very people that live there, they claim, as I have taught.
It's not their city limits. They think that because their town of Blanding is right there and right there on the San Juan River, that it's their land.
It's not the city of Blanding. We're talking about the people that live out in Bears Ears. They're the ones that have formed this alternate.
This lady that is talking so much, she's from Blanding. She is from Blanding. The San Juan County is very reactionary.
A whole bunch of people from Aneth who live out in the middle of it.
Aneth is a oil community. You have to understand that area is punctured with oil wells everywhere in Aneth, and they're afraid that they won't have more drilling. They have right, just like coal miners are
Contrary
afraid.
to that, one of the people that I interviewed from Aneth said she wanted no more drilling, but she also was concerned that their access to their ancestral lands were going to be compromised.
Well, the majority of the Native Americans of a variety of tribes are for it.
Native lands.
Well, that's what people in Wupatki.
Those are the falsities.
So how would you answer
The
Wupatki?
Native people were told by people who were against this, people who were supportive of the oil and gas industry. They certainly will be allowed and have been allowed in the Escalante Monument to go on to their native lands, to do what they've been doing in the past in their native lands. This is not, they've been told that it's going to be compromised, but that is not true.
So in Cameron, Arizona, how do you explain for Wupatki and the fact that the natives who lived on the monument were displaced off of their very own monument? Because that
I don't know anything about
Cameron,
Arizona.
Arizona.
To the south rim of the Grand Canyon.
That's
Right.
an amazing, wonderful place, Wupatki. I backpacked there a few years ago, and these are national treasures. They don't belong to the locals who happen to be living there. They're national treasures.
So you're saying that the Native Americans who lived on that land traditionally would have no right to live there anymore? Because that's what happened there.
Well, they probably
don't
live
know
in
the history, so I can't
Wupatki
comment.
is rather small, for one thing, and I'm sure they're living in bordering communities, and there are vast swaths of land that are reservations.
Then you should fact check that, because
So
that's part of the
questions that you're asking are you seem to be supportive of the oil, of these people who don't want bear ears, just by the questions that you're asking. Your questions
It's because their point of view has been so totally ignored in the process.
not been ignored. They have had so many meetings.
That's the way we feel.
and
They
so
feel
much
the other way.
time.
And there's one other point that I wanted to make, and everybody is focusing on extractive industry. The problem is you extract it and it's gone, and then what do you have?
The argument that the natives that live there have nothing to do with extractive industry, the extractive industries. In fact, the majority of the people that I have talked to in San Juan County who live out in the area actually are not in favor of extraction, but they're trying to protect their access to the resources.
And they will have
Wait,
access
so
to the
so what happened? So currently,
I've
the,
heard that Native Americans won't have
That is
access.
false, that they will not have access to their resources.
so they can't go out
They've
and
been
harvest
told
pine nuts
that. Yes,
without
they.
a-
Where did
without
you
a
hear
permit.
that? That's absolutely false.
I can actually pull somebody. I think there's somebody here that actually has had their pine nuts confiscated because they weren't picking with a permit. They were Native American.
That's a anecdotal story. It's absolutely
Wait, so if it
false.
comes from a first-hand source, it becomes anecdotal?
No, the first-hand source is the source as to what's going to be done with the monument if the monument
If this
is
has
going to
happened
be
now,
made.
It has nothing to do with being a monument because it's public land now.
Right,
So
but
it
that
may have been BLM.
But it was
There's going to be a different management coalition. It's not going to just be BLM. It's going to be BLM and their natives, and I think even representatives from the county. So it's a different kind of management. It's different from Escalante,
Fear-mongering about this is absolutely ridiculous.
and there's a lot of misinformation.
Misinformation.
I believe that
Fears
I-
because
so I-
they haven't
so I have-
read the report about the
I've been able to
monument.
tell that there's misinformation from both sides on this.
Right,
Well,
let's fact checking really does
you
need
really
to go.
need to
Yes,
fact
then the natives need to have the right to get the firewood, to collect herbs, to do ceremonies, to collect
That's their
pine
big
nuts,
concern right now.
and that needs to be preserved regardless of what happens to the Bears Ears area.
And
So
it is going to be preserved. The false information that was given out during those public meetings by the locals who do not want protection of those lands, that false information that was given to many other people created these fears. And these fears are not something that this will not happen with the creation of the monument. And that is something that with fact-checking, you can read about what the monument will do and what the monument will not do. And one of the things the monument will not do is to keep the native peoples from collecting their piñon nuts, from doing what they've always been able to do on that land.
Okay, can I get your name?
Gretchin Seigler,
How do you spell that?
Seigler.
Okay. And what is your name?
Rebecca Wallace.
Rebecca Wallace?
Wallace.
Please spell Wallace.
Wallace.
Better spell Rebecca. There are more than one way to spell it.
Rebecca.
Thank you. Thank you very much.